your Cincinnati Bengals dismantled the Buffalo Bills in the divisional round of the AFC playoffs. They're going to the AFC Championship game to face the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City once again, back-to-back years. How great does that sound? This is Bengals on the Brain. I'm Joe Goodberry, and what an experience that was. I was there, the snow coming down, the atmosphere was just tremendous, and the Bengals played up to a fitting setting in the background in Buffalo in snowy Orchard Park, New York, and it looked like the Bills didn't want to play in the cold. It looked like the Bills couldn't run in the snow. Had no effect on the Bengals at all. And it's funny because I told somebody at the game that the one thing that worried me a little bit about the Monday Night Football matchup where the Bengals drove right down the field, looked like they were driving down again, is one, you show them your plan. But number two is I think teams are kind of caught off guard sometimes when the Bengals are the more physical team. I don't think they expect it because they see receivers and they see all the, they continually choose to draft receivers over offensive linemen. So I think you get the idea that they're some physical team. They're not. When they want to turn it up and turn it on, they do. It's really only a couple teams that really out-physical them. I think it's AFC North football. At least I've always said it was AFC North football. And I think when you play a team for the first time, they're caught off guard. And I didn't want that to be shown on the Monday night game. And because you figured they'd play Buffalo again. If they did, then Buffalo would be more prepared for it. They were not prepared for it, or they thought that the 9 minutes that happened on that night was a mirage or whatever. It wasn't real. They whatever the case may be, they were sleepwalking all game, even watching the tape. So I felt that way during the game, that like they're just never getting into gear with the Bills. What's going on? Are the Bengals really doing that much to them? Because when I'm at the game, I don't have the same perspective. My awareness isn't as good as if when I'm watching at home and I can see things, I can rewind things. I can go on Twitter and see what everyone else is saying at the same time. When I'm at the stadium, none of that is happening. I'm talking to the people around me, of course, but my awareness is lower. So I wanted to look at the tape. I wanted to see what they were doing on defense. I wanted to see what the Bengals' plan on offense was. If what I saw the Bills' defense in their plan, if that held true. And it was worse than that. The Bengals absolutely killed the Bills in every way possible. Not just on the field, not with just intensity and physicality, but they out-schemed them completely on offense and defense. I thought whatever the Bills were doing was terrible in terms of trying to trick the Bengals on defense. There was almost none of it. Normally when I watch film, we can usually, you guys are here with me, we'll break down a few plays where, things didn't go right for whatever on the offensive line, or Joe Burrow holding the ball a little bit too long, or the receiver running the wrong route because they got confused, or whatever the case may be. There was almost none of that. You normally have a few of those every game. So I looked at the Bengals side, and I'm like, okay, so what's the inverse? What do you do if they're just going to sit in this cover 2 shell and never bring an extra guy in the box? You run it down their throat. And I was coming into this game, I was wondering about the Bengals if they would find their run game again, or did that pass them? We talked about the peaks and valleys of the season and changing your offense and defense and changing how you look, and are you doing enough to stay ahead of the curve? And I was starting to worry that they passed where the good run game was in the second half of the season, the beginning of the second half of the season, down to a slope. But when the Bills play the way they do, the Bengals just ran it down their throat. Joe Mixon had a great day. The offensive line had a great day. And I just couldn't get off that while watching the tape. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to go heavy focus. A lot of people wanted to see how did the 3 backups play on the offensive line. We're going to look at everyone. We're going to look at most of the plays. I've got a lot of plays clipped here where some of them are just going to roll. Some of them we will go back and focus on particular assignments or the performance of a few guys. But the first video here is just the first quarter, the first 2 drives where they drive down the field and the game is 14-0 after that. You're hearing Who Dey chants on the broadcast. You're hearing them in the stadium. It's awesome. Let's take a look. Big theme for today's show is 6 defenders versus 6 blockers, plus the runner, mostly being Joe Mixon, some Samaje Perine. But the idea here is to run against the nickel defense of the Buffalo Bills when they have 2 deep safeties. So that just leaves the 4 defensive linemen and the 2 linebackers. And if you have a tight end in to help block, that leaves Mixon with a lot of room to run. Even if one guy comes unblocked, Mixon can hopefully make that guy miss and make a play. So we're starting off with some of those. Bengals are mixing in some play action.
Offensive line doing a good time. Burrow throwing on the run, going a little off script to make that throw easier. Big play there to start the game. And we got a pitch to the right. I really like the blocking here. You'll see we're going to take a little closer look. And you'll see Adeniji and Mitch Wilcox. Wilcox has to stun the end and then pass him off to Adeniji so Adeniji can get in place. And then Wilcox is going to come up and get a hat on Tremaine Edmonds. Meanwhile, Devin Asiasi on the right side there also clearing the lane. This is how you get 6 on 6. And then that leaves the safety needing to come up on Joe Mixon. But that's after a 10-yard gain. So you'll take that all day long. And the Bengals did. So what happens if the defense wants to send 6 rushers by showing 2 guys in the A-gap and you only have 5 blockers because you're an empty? That means someone's going to come free, and they're going to leave the left guy all the way on the outside to come free, even though the linebacker Milano doesn't drop. So Burrow knows he has to get rid of it right away. This is not on Jackson Carman. They're prepared for an unblocked defender, and Burrow does a great job getting rid of the ball. This is the touchdown play to Jamar Chase. You see he's in the backfield. They see what they want in the Bills defense, motion him into the slot. It's looking like cover 2 zone. They're going to rotate out of it into a single high safety. Burrow is going to break the pocket and step up. The defense completely loses Jamar Chase, and it's just a great play. Great way to have a quarterback that can do that. I want to focus on Jackson Carman, though. He's going to stab this guy inside, pass him off, and then just get enough of that nickel corner that's blitzing to give Burrow the time to step up. That's a big play. I think that's Carman's top 2 play of the day. Watch Hayden Hurst come across. He's going to get Taron Johnson in the nickel corner. And if you can get the tight end on the nickel corner, I think you have the advantage in most days. Jackson Carman, let's watch him throw 57 Epinesa about 7 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And now this is the technique. You're just trying to really get him out of there, but they normally don't go that far. We got a double block here between Volson and Karras. I think the Bengals did a great job here of saying, all right, you two are our veterans. You guys have played the longest together. Let's run our dual blocks off of you guys. Meanwhile, Adeniji, you're the athlete of the tackles. You are going to be the one pulling while we're letting Carman be the bully. And that's just putting your aces in their places. So the Bengals continue to say we're going to double block with these 2 guys, and we're just going to create lanes and create movement off those 2, off Karras and Volson, who I thought were excellent, both of them today. Play action. Look at the pocket. Right as he gets to the top of the drop. That is clean. As clean as he's had all day. You want to put everyone deep? Fine, we'll take a 10-yard dump off to Jamar Chase. Here's when chipping can go wrong. That's why the Bengals probably don't do it more often. If you see Hurst, he kind of just pushes that guy inside of Adeniji. I don't know if Adeniji wasn't expecting it, but that's how sometimes tackles don't like when the tight end helps chip. Remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about the wide receiver screens and why they run them? Well, there's a fake one. He pumps it, hits Hurst deep. O-line was flawless there. I don't know what the Bills were doing. The Bills looked like they're running in 2 feet of snow, like they were the ones that couldn't handle it. We got a blitz here now because the Bills are starting to get desperate. Tremaine Edmonds comes. He's just too late. It's too slow. They like to run delayed blitzes. Wasn't there. This is a deep shot and a really good throw by Burrow, and the Bills are just too late on that. This is the only sack of the first half of the game, really, and it's not the O-line's fault.
Everything was pretty much perfect, those first 2 drives, and you see it there, and the big focus, big takeaway I took from this was, and I knew the Bills would stay in their nickel defense. The Bengals do too, but the Bengals do so much more on defense with bringing Mike Hilton, with shifting their safeties or disguising their coverage or using their linebackers in different ways, going to a 3-4 or a 4-3 if they have to. There was none of that from the Bills, so the Bengals were just teeing off with 6 defenders in the box, 6 offensive linemen, or 5 offensive linemen and tight end, so 6 blockers, plus you got your runner. In just math, I'm not great at math either, but 6 and 6, that means the running back should be going free until he meets a safety or a nickel corner. Great. They'll take that all day. It's how you average 5 yards per carry without really making anyone miss, but running through guys and carrying them for another 2, 3, 4 yards at times. Big day for Joe Mixon. I thought Samaje Perine had his days, or had his moments as well on Sunday. So protection-wise, though, was it as good as we thought? Was it just Burrow just reading and dissecting and getting rid of the ball? Because we know this. I think nationally they underestimate it. I tried to talk about it on Twitter the day before that Burrow just 60% of his passes are coming out within 2.5 seconds. It is very hard to pressure a guy when you're getting it off that fast. I think he's only been pressured in 442 throws within 2.5 seconds, only pressured on 48 of them. I mean, you're not going to get to 9 sacks all year under 2.5 seconds. If he's dissecting, if he's reading the way we know he can, The ball's coming out, and the offensive line, the job is easy. You can lose a rep. That's why your pass block grade might not be excellent. Thinking of like Pro Football Focus, I just saw the grades. Jackson Carman had like a 77 in pass blocking. Everyone else was in the mid-60s. Hakeem Adeniji in the 40s. Adeniji charged with 5 pressures. Carman 3. I want to say Volson 3, and then 2 for Sharping and Karras. I might be off a little bit there, but that's the gist of it. That's how you can lose a rep, get a poor grade, and the ball's already out. Doesn't matter. We will see some of those here. Most still is good and good news. We're going to talk about Carman. Carman, I'll talk about him after this video once the play wraps. We'll do that. How about that? Let's go on to the next handful of drives here when the Bengals finally make this game out of reach for the Bills.
I mentioned it in the first half, but I thought Cordell Volson was excellent in this game. And here he is going against Tim Settle, the big nose tackle. This may have been the only close loss for him. And the idea why the offensive line versus defensive line for the Bengals wasn't a big issue here is because Burrow got the ball out so quickly. And again, 6 blockers plus the runner, because you got Edmonds and Milano walked up here. But that means if you're walking up, Karras and Sharping are going to get one-on-one with linebackers. And then you even got Hurst that comes up and helps with Milano. Like, what did the Bills expect to happen here if you're going to walk them up versus the run? The Bengals were just pulling all the right strings in this matchup. Deep ball right here. We want to see how the O-line can protect, because can you still get these deep shots off? The Bengals didn't connect on them, but can you still get them off? And they did. It was very good protection. A little bit of play action there as Burrow slides a little bit to the left and dishes it downfield. And I forgot, you got the splits by Edmonds. That's what it is too. I wanted to highlight that, and I completely forgot that they blitz Edmonds. It was a good pickup by Karras. Everyone does their jobs. We're going to focus in a little bit quickly on the left side of the line, and he fakes a 2-hand punch, goes with a 1-hand punch. Really like that out of Jackson Carman. And then you got some chipping on the other side by Mitchell Wilcox. All the tight ends had great days. That's a better chip than what we saw from Hayden Hurst earlier. I like that style. Bills stay aggressive, bring a 4th rusher in the form of Matt Milano, gets picked up flawlessly, and we're finding Hayden Hurst over the middle of the field. Nice play by Joe Burrow, good pickup by the offensive line. We got play action again. Burrow checking it down. Mitch Wilcox, again, going to make a little play after the catch, but let's focus in on the offensive line here. Cordell Volson going against Boogie Basham as the Bengals pull him. And when you pull and do play action, that's when the defense bites on it. So I really like that wrinkle when you can pull that out once in a while. And we're going to get Mitch Wilcox coming over, cracking AJ Epinesa from the other side. We got Cordell Volson, and he's going to come and help block, again, with Karras. Those two were really good together. Watch how they get 51 off his feet, really blow him off the ball, and create that space for the running back to flow behind them. Play of note here for Carman. He's a little bit hesitant. I think he thought the play was going somewhere else, so he has to jump back inside and get his hand, which helps or hurts the pulling blocker, helps the Bills defense. We got a crack toss. So this is important because later in the game, they do a real good job at it, but Jamar Chase has come down on Epinesa. 2 offensive linemen get to pull out to the outside. Had they've reached their blocks, it probably goes in for a touchdown. Let's look on the other side real fast. Sharping and Adeniji, they both give up pressure here in the goal line, and now we're down to 3rd down. But on the following play, watch those two again. They're going to pass off the end tackle stunt. Burrow lays a beautiful ball to Jamar Chase that ultimately is knocked away by Matt Milano. Again, Cordell Volson, let's watch him versus Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver's trying to go to power, and Volson just kicks him out of the club, man. I love that play there. This is going to be back-to-back here. So you could take a tackle end stunt and pass it off like we saw a couple plays ago, or you can ride those guys. If they want to go with it, you go with them, ride them out of there. There goes Ed Oliver. There goes number 90. I don't know who that was. Oh, Shaq Lawson. That's right. And Burrow runs for a big gain. So good job by those two. Jackson Carman, once again here, he's going to try and go with a 2-hand punch, kind of let the guy get underneath him. He gets a little sloppy here, a little bit lazy. When a quick pass there, you got to stay in front. Can't let your quarterback take a nasty hit like that. Once again, watch Volson take the end who's stunting all the way back inside. Good job stabbing your original man, allowing Burrow to get the time to get it to Hayden Hurst, picks up the 1st down. Back to Max Sharping, who's going to pull on this play, get up to Matt Milano. He doesn't get a clean block, but he stays with it. A lot of yards after contact for these guys. We got that crack toss again. Watch Jamar Chase on this, and then Jackson Carman's going to get to the outside and clear out Tremaine Edmonds, just slid him to the bench, basically. Again, Jamar Chase, I think, had a great blocking day. He took pride in it. I saw him celebrating after some blocks. To come in here, get under the rib pad, and just boof, right in the armpit, just lift the guy off his feet. And then Jackson Carman, eyes on his target, locks on, gets his arm up, and just, once you get to that position, you are just food for offensive linemen. Great block by those two. Goal line play, this is the play that got reviewed that Joe Mixon does score on, and I thought they got a real good push on the inside despite the linebackers diving in, the corner diving in, and really making it tough. I wanted to focus really quick on Jackson Carman. I think this shows the final play here for us. Jackson Carman getting some power and some pop on these guys. First, Shaq Lawson lifts them straight up, stands them straight up, throws them out of there, then gets a hand on Tremaine Edmonds, and just enough for that to be the final score for the Bengals.
So an offensive-heavy review for our film today. I thought Hakeem Adeniji was his normal self. I'm kind of gotten used to what he does out there. It's funny, even though you know a guy has flaws, I think when everyone accepts the flaws and can scheme around them or be prepared for them, it's okay, right? Because everyone has their strengths and weaknesses in all walks of life. So when you say this guy's not really the strongest dude, he can get blown back a little bit, you kind of prepare for it, or you give him the more help on that side. It's funny that I think they continued to get help on the right tackle, despite it being Jackson Carman's first NFL start at left tackle. Adeniji, I'm okay with him for now, but I do think we need to, in the future, in the offseason, we're going to talk about what to do at that spot with Lael Collins, with Adeniji, and maybe even Jackson Carman. Right guard, Max Sharping is fine with me. That's like an ideal backup. Not going to make too many mistakes, but he's not going to make any splash wow wins. I'm okay with that. That's a guy you can plug in and start and get through a game. I even think that he could probably end up starting for a poor offensive line somewhere in the league still. So good on Max Sharping. He may even get another game if Alex Kappa isn't ready to return. Ted Karras, his usual self, looks like his knee is okay. That's good news. It didn't affect him, actually. It may be, hurting it affected him, but I thought he had an excellent game again. I've really enjoyed watching Ted Karras this year. At left guard, Volson, I thought, had an excellent day on tape. The PFF grades or whatever for him. He's kind of high variance. He will lose some reps. He will lose balance at times. I don't mind at all because he's nasty. He's a bully. I think the idea of putting him and Carman next to each other is funny because they both kind of play the same way. They want to tear your head off, and they don't care if they miss while they're doing it. So the two of them was a treat to watch. Carman, let's talk about him. I thought the power was evident. I thought his patience was way better than ever. He used to get off balance and over his toes and over his knees 10 times a game at guard last year. Maybe once or twice this game, even once or twice against the Ravens. You'll take that. That's okay. Maybe more space helps a guy like that. Sometimes it doesn't. With guys that can't move that well, you put them out in space and finesse rushers just toy with them. I'm actually starting to wonder if Carman's a better athlete than we expected. It's just the sloppiness that makes him look worse sometimes, and especially inside. If he's going to play high, then that's hard to win on the inside. You just can't do it. You're going to get out-leveraged by defensive tackles all day long. Geno Atkins would forklift him out of the play if he was going against a Carman. But at tackle, you can play a little more upright. You can be, I don't want to say stiffer, but the way he is kind of stiff. And if you can blow people off with power and then recover, which is what he was doing, then I'm okay with that. I don't think he's perfect. Far from it, obviously. He's only started one game at left tackle, even despite playing tackle at the collegiate level. Full disclosure, as a prospect, I didn't think he was a tackle at all in the NFL. I thought he'd be a better guard. But now that you see he can't really bend and control his balance and play low and squatty as a guard, he might be a tackle. So I'm interested to keep watching him. I thought he had a great day on his birthday. Hats off to Jackson Carman. Way to show up in a moment when the team needed you to step up. We may see him again, too. We'll have to see how the injury report goes for both Jonah and Alex Kappa at left and right guard. But the defense, I just want to be quick with this. I thought Joe Burrow was excellent. I thought Joe Mixon was excellent. I thought Jamar Chase was excellent. The defense, again, Lou Anarumo, huge credit to him. The way he keeps mixing it up. Leslie Frazier for the Bills mixed nothing up. I thought it was so bland and so weak. And in comparison, the Bengals are pulling every rabbit out of the hat against Josh Allen, making him think, making him hold the ball, simulating creepers and pressures and not letting him know who's coming pre-snap, and then bringing Mike Hilton all the way from the sideline, basically, and blitzing him and getting to Allen. I think Hilton blitzed 4 times, had 3 pressures. He also had a tackle for a loss. Hilton was excellent. I love watching him as a nickel corner. What a physical defender. What a tone setter and positive spark for the entire defense. And I shout out both corners. Eli Apple just does his job. Not a lot of big plays. Did have a nice pass breakup at the end. What I mean is not a lot of big plays against him. Not a lot of errors. He had that one against the Ravens, but really he's been good. The safeties do such a good job over the top. I've talked about that. But then Cam Taylor-Britt I thought was excellent. Physical, tough tackler. All the things we know. And then he gets a couple ball skills, plays on the ball, interception, pass breakup. Cam Taylor-Britt, man, if that's who you're becoming, these are guys like Cordell Volson, Cam Taylor-Britt. If you guys are going to start making impacts late in your rookie year, that's how this team gets better and gets over the hump with 2 games to go, we hope. Man, it's nice to talk about the positives. Bengals are on a roll. 11 straight wins. 10 straight wins? I may be getting ahead of myself. This is Bengals on the Brain. I'm Joe Goodberry, part of the Cincinnati Bengals Talk YouTube channel. Until next time, we'll see you next week. The season rolls on.